Ah, a new horde of orcs.
What's up, everybody? It's Stuart here. Welcome back to a cast of the RotWK King version 7. Today we have a 2v2 on Buckland. Alright, let's get into it. We have our first player, Luke, as Mordor in the top left. And we have his ally, Stats, as Elves in the top right. Who's also known as Caleb. And we go into the other team. We have Asba as Man of the West. And his ally is MayShadowFax as Mordor. So we got Mordor and men versus Elves and Mordor. Cool. This is very similar teams to most of the 2v2s I've been casting lately, except for Luke is in the place of Dark, I think. No, actually, it's not true at all. The top team is completely different. But Asba and MayShadow have been in most of them. Anyway, MayShadow's going for a... Well, he was going for Easterlings. He canceled that, it seems. And has decided to go for a tier 2. Probably after scouting, I'd imagine. He's doing a little bit of scouting. We have a Lorien Warrior Battalion out for Stats. We have Orc Warriors coming out for Luke. That's what he's going for. He's going for Gondor Knights, which will be excellent against those orcs, of course, that Luke is starting with. And he's, of course, built it very forward, which seems crazy, but of course that does not. Nobody looks there for a production building, so it should be a surprise to Luke that there is Gondor Knights on the field. And to Caleb, of course. Stats. And if, of course, he can kill off these elves, that'll be very nice for him. A little bit of ring around the rosy at the moment. Of course, those knights will win that engagement. We do have Mithril and Sentries out in the field now for Stats, so he'll be ready for that. Luke, on the other hand, is going for orcs at the moment, so he will not be ready for any kind of things like that. And we have a Corsair of Umbar start for MayShadowF, which is an unusual start. That is not something you see very often, so I'm curious to see how that'll go. Not that Corsairs of Umbar are bad or anything, they're very much not. But it's just not a unit that people start with, so I'm interested to see how this will do. Because majority of players don't actually use Corsairs of Umbar. Because of course Mordor has the problem where they have too many options for swords. They have orcs and they have black orcs, which are arguably very good orc warriors. So they kind of outclass Corsairs of Umbar as far as the swordman part is concerned, because they get horde bonus and they're just really good. But of course fire bombs are a thing for Corsairs, and they're pretty quick as well. So they could do well, but it's hard to say. Definitely not in this scenario. He's actually going to lose his Corsairs if he's not careful. Luckily for him though, they are pretty quick. Faster than Orc Scum. So he can keep running away, it looks like. Asba's microing his cav around here. I think he got a Malorn tree kill over there somewhere, potentially. Judging by the lack of Malorn on that side. Of course, they're dealing with these Mithril and Sentries really easily. They can keep up and do damage while the Mithrils try to run away. So they'll be cut down in the prime of their elven lives. Asba's throwing down a barracks and is getting Gondor soldiers rather as well. We have Easterling support out for Luke, so he'll be ready to defend against Cav, at least somewhat. Looks like MayShadow's using his Eye of Sauron to buff these Gondor soldiers against these orc hordes. They should actually hold out and kill all those without too much trouble, I would think, especially with the buff. And there we see some of the Corsairs' firebombs being utilized, which is very cool. Now that we have Lorien archers on the field, though, it's going to be increasingly more difficult for MayShadow to keep them alive. He's trying the firebomb tactics, though, which is commendable. I like seeing new strats trying to be used. I mean, I wouldn't say Corsair firebombs is a new strat. Speaking of something new, this is not knocked down, and it's actually in control of someone, and someone's benefiting from it. And it's past the first minute of the game. So that's something different. Because usually the inn, or outpost rather, is knocked down immediately. And nobody rebuilds it for the rest of the game. Luke's got a pretty big force. Looks like MayShadow sending his forces up here. A little Mordor and Mordor action for you. Asba bringing in his Man of the West troops to help out. He's also, of course, coming over here and over here. So Luke is getting a bit savaged, and the Stats will have to send aid, which he's doing so. There we go, the outpost has been knocked down finally. We do have Roger Lancers on the field now for MayShadowFax, which would be very good. Seem to be doing work against Orc and Elf alike. Stats needs to be a bit careful with his army. He doesn't want to get trampled. He does have 1 battalion of pikes, but if those pikes disappear, it's going to be nasty. We do have Gunner Knights ready to trample as well. If you can get a nice trample through, Asba can get a lot of kills, but of course, he needs to be very careful. Well, that was not a good charge. He didn't want to charge, I could tell. But of course, he was already balls deep and couldn't stop. Well, he stopped, but he literally stopped right in front of the enemy. Lost a bunch of units because of it. But you don't want to charge pikes, so it's probably a better outcome than that happening. Definitely. Asba's still on the offensive, trying to take down a bunch of farms. Luke is defending off pretty nicely, I'd say. And it looks like Stats is under attack from Asba and MayShadow as well. Stats has his defense force ready, though. He's continuing to get to more Elves dudes out in the field. And of course he has his army in the bottom left, savaging Asba's base. And they seem to be doing pretty well. They do have a rally call, of course, which is definitely helping out. And he can potentially shut down Asba's economy pretty hard, which will be pretty bad for him. Looks like he's actually building in the middle there. Ish. Which is probably going to be his safest farms, oddly enough. We have Haradrim archers out for MayShadow, which are always good. Looks like he's throwing down a troll cage as well. Jesus. Some of the voice files from the Haradrims are intense. Just like what they sleep in. Tense. Shit. Alright, Stats is going to lose his archers here. That's unfortunate. Although maybe not completely. The battalion does live. If you can get a minute of Galadriel, they will heal up. Which isn't too bad. Like Stats is also assaulting MayShadow's base. I think MayShadow not getting savaged as much as he needs to be is going to be a problem. He seems to be arguably not getting raided as much. He of course is getting raided though, but he's also being able to tech up quite nicely. He's got a lot of his buildings still alive. He's got these precious farms here that are teching up, giving him more money. But if he gets Haradrims and trolls and stuff, it's going to be painful for the enemy team. Because Haradrim archers is just really, really good units. Especially when you give him a drummer troll support, which looks like what MayShadow's trying to do here. But of course he is command point kept. And looks like Luke is going on the offensive here. With Stats. So they could shut down MayShadow's shenanigans here. Luke is under attack though by Asba in the top left, as we see, but I don't think this is enough to push through, so he should be fine there. And of course he had to worry about some guys in his base, but it looks like Asba has dealt with those. No, he actually hasn't. They're healing up in his base. Hiding in the trees. Classic elf scum. I like it. If you were not aware for some reason, the elves stealth in trees when they stand there and don't actually like move or aggro to anything. They just go invisible. So it can be pretty useful to hide out, heal up. MayShadow going for the drummer troll using the fear ability. And now of course he'll have leadership for his Haradrim archers, which will be pretty powerful. So that's going to make life painful for the enemy team. But by no means is going to be a huge deal. Beacon being placed by MayShadow. There's creep killed off. This is untaken, and the creep reward is still there, oddly enough. Strange no one would take the gold. I guess shit got real quick. and they had to run away. The armies of stats seem to be doing pretty well. I like how when you stay and land on trees, they die. It's pretty cool. They're the dead trees instead of these nice lush pine trees. It's a neat little touch. There's a lot of little touches like that. Just like nice, you know? Alright, Luke is sending some guys to help defend against Asba over here. It looks like MayShadow is also pushing him with his bulk of his forces. Like all of his forces that aren't in his base. Keeping his Drum Patrol in hold ground stance so it doesn't aggro to anything and gets increased armor and just sits there and buffs his troops so they can do as much damage as possible. That's really what we want to do. Looks like we do have Mirkwoods out in the field for stats, which will definitely be doing work. If he can keep his Mirkwoods alive, they will win the day for him, I feel. But will they? Also, if they start getting targeted by these Roger Marchers, they will be eaten alive. Especially with Barbed Arrow. If you Barbed Arrow these Mirkwoods, they will get obliterated. So, something to watch out for. Barbed Arrow is very strong. There's a lot of troops from Luke here. Looking to do some damage. Asba's gotten very little past the enemy lines to do a whole lot of raiding with, it seems. So harassment hasn't been going as planned, I would expect, for Asba. But he's trying. Trying so much that he's running through Orc Warriors just to get there. Alright, so he should be able to hold there, though, without too much trouble. Looks like Stats has pushed MayShadow back into his base. Classic Elven fashion, camping up with archers and pikes. Now all he needs is Noldors to complete the set and be the true Elven scum that he was born to be. Get the Drum Patrol in there, yeah, there you go. Use the fear, break up the elves, and then overwhelm them. Good play there from MayShadow, using that Drum Patrol spear. That should help him clean up here pretty nicely, although the Mirkwoods did get away, sadly for him. You can't heal them up, of course. He still has the ability to make them, so that's useful for stats as well. Looks like Stats is also helping defend Luke's base over here against Asba. So we have some nice teamwork going on. Luke's got plenty of troops though to send at the enemy, which is good. It's going to make it hard for Asba to just walk in, take his base on a whim. So it's not going to be easy for Asba by any means. Unless MayShadow really presses in on Stats, which he's not really able to do at the moment. I think MayShadow's facing the point where Elves are becoming a real threat. Now that he has all these things. Powers could change that, of course, or just a really good engagement for Mordor. Stats' highest power is over wood. So, I mean, that's a 10 power point. I think MayShadow has enough troops to overwhelm him, though. Especially if he's melting his Mirkwoods, which he is indeed. He's targeting down the Mirkwoods specifically. We have nothing special for Luke. MayShadow has himself Industry, which is very useful. And the rest of the 5 power points. And then, of course, Asba has himself Hobbits and 12 power points at the moment. So nobody's got anything big. No barrages or anything. We do have fire arrows for the Haraldra Archers from MayShadow, though, which is going to increase his damage output significantly. So Luke sent some Haraldra Lancers there. They didn't do so well. Rip. Looks like Luke has also teched up 2 Haradrums. And he's continuing to press his advantage on Asba with sheer numbers of orcs. His orc spam is on point. And he seems to be doing pretty well. Now he's going to have to worry about MayShadow's forces. But as long as Stats keeps his stuff together and pushes, gets his army back, and keeps the pressure on MayShadow, he shouldn't be able to do too much without Taking casualties, there we go. His Haradrims are taking damage. A few of them died off, not too many. Looks like most of the action is gravitating towards the bottom left here. MayShadow is pushing in to fend off Luke's attack with Asba. Asba fends off Luke's attack up here with Stats doing some damage there. Stats is just continuing to pick away at the Haradrim Archer line with his Mirkwoods and Lorians. It's definitely working out good for him. I think the fact that barbed arrows aren't being used for MayShadow is a shame. Because it gives knockback and it just does huge damage. I mean, you can put them on autocast, but it will probably use them on something you don't want them using on, maybe. So you gotta remember to use them that way, if you don't. Of course, could be a bit tricky. Got a Rohirrim summon. Up in the north here. From Asba, very nice. Rohan will answer. They've picked up the phone. And here they are. I think things are starting to go pretty well for the northern team. Stats is taking a lot of lives with his forces. He's also got Rivendell Lancer support. He's just whittling down the enemy forces, and of course Asba seems to be starting to push back against Luke, but Luke is unrelenting in his assault. He's also teched up 2 Black Orcs, which doesn't take much, of course. Just upgrade your Orc Pit for 250. And then you make Orcs for 250 instead of 100, or 80 rather. And they're significantly better. And of course they can be upgraded if you so desire. Things. Looks like Luke has himself Industry as well. Just throwing up a cheeky little tower there and getting a Mouth of Sauron. So Luke is doing pretty well, I'd say. But the southern team is arguably also doing very well. But not as well. At least not in the current moment that I'm looking at right now. I think the northern team has the advantage at the moment. A single orc running in terror. Stats' army has gotten pretty nasty. He's got lots of good elves, and then he of course has cap support now, which will be really annoying for MayShadow or even Asba to deal with. Ooh, very nice. MayShadow used the Launch Skulls ability. Hit them, and then they hit them where it hurts with an actual fireball. Catapult support should definitely help against the elves. I think MayShadow definitely made the right choice there. You always want to get siege against the elves if they're in that campy scenario like that, because you can of course use the Launch Skulls to spread them out and break up their little camp. And of course, you can target down the archers with said catapults. Just remember to put your catapults in aggressive stance so they fire as far as possible. Noldors, though, are fairly good at taking out catapults in version 7, which is probably going to be adjusted, of course, as it's not a particularly popular function. So if there's ever a hotfix, that will be it. Probably on the table there. Oh, Luke's gonna lose his Mouth of Sauron, and indeed he does. Theoden is now providing leadership to the southern team in all glorious fashion. Very cool. We did have an elf summon, I heard it. I don't know where the ants got summoned though. Ah, there they are. He's starting to do some damage to the fort. I don't think he'll take the fort by any means. Asba probably has rebuild as well. He does indeed, but he used it. Ah. And still, he'll be able to finish these ends off. It's pissed. And now dead. And MayShadow using Industry there on his ally's farm. Very nice. You want to keep your ally funded, of course, if possible. Ah, we have the units, the Noldor. And that, of course, is the HD edition for Rise of the Witch King Noldor, which is what I'm using, of course. And no, it's not available yet. This is alpha build. But they look really cool. You don't see them very often in my cast because, of course, they don't get built very often. But they are pretty cool. They look like the Noldor from the first age, second age, whatever. Second age, maybe. I can't remember when the fucking one of the ring. When Sauron lost the ring. You know, that one time at Van Camp. I'll find out. We got Thillians there. We got Tom Bombadil being summoned in, who could potentially do a lot of damage here if Asba gets him in there. Oop, camera went off. Ooh. Huge. Sonic Song is real. There's a long shot as well. Take out the little orcs, black orcs. Not too phased by that. And of course he's got his Roger Marchers auto-casting black, or barbed arrows. Which is pretty effective. Can't tell if Stats is on the run from MayShadow's army or is repositioning strategically. I guess we'll find out soon enough. He might find himself cornered here in a minute, though, if he's not careful. MayShadow is poised to bring the pain with a lot of stuff, as well as Asba, of course, being right there in his base. But Luke, of course, is pushing in. All players are doing a very great job of being very relentless against their opponents, in my opinion. Everyone's keeping their macro up, microing their troops into battle often. So there's always lots of action going on, which is excellent. There's the Noldors using swords. Pretty cute. Some players probably don't even realize that they have swords. I expect. They can, of course, change. And they're decent swordsmen, as you see there. That's not even the full battalion in Mordor. But of course, their swords... Is that a full battalion? It might be, actually. I can't remember how many is in the battalion. Well, Asba's definitely in trouble, I'd say. He's losing his good farms to Noldor's as well, which is not what he wants, I would expect. But the Noldor are dying to this farm as well. He's sending Gunner Knights, which probably aren't going to be very useful for stopping Noldor. Although, if there's no Noldor left in the battalion, they will. Just out of curiosity, how much damage do these Noldor do? They're actually doing really well, surprisingly. I guess it's not surprising. Gunner Knights aren't that good. Noldor will fall, though. But they did take out a level 3 farm, which is... You know, it sounds like it's just a farm. Level 3 farms late game are crucial. You want to keep your level 3 farms alive, because they are huge. They give you a huge amount of money, and they give you a lot of command points as well. If you lose those, you're back down to level 1 farms when you rebuild them. They're not nearly as good, and it won't keep your economy up, or your command points up nearly as well. So losing farms is actually pretty important not to do. Which seems pretty... duh. But... there it is. It being thrown down by Stats, who's also going for an eagle. Interesting. Anyone remember the patch 1.06 of Beef Me 2 Eagles? The flying fortresses of our time that were banned from Game Ranger lobbies. Those were the days. But luckily 2.2's Eagle is balanced, so it's not that. That's what I like about 2.2. Everything is decently balanced, which is lovely. Obviously some things aren't perfect. Black Riders are still pretty OP in my opinion, but for how much money they cost and the fact you can only have one, maybe they should be? Don't know. And there's Barrage, obliterating the army of Stats, it looks like. He did actually manage to not lose his Noldors though, if he can get those out of there, although they are cowering in fear. Probably isn't ideal, but if you can take him back to his base, he can heal him up. Or you can just start shooting off some of the units of Asba being sent in. Asba's starting to make a push here against Luke. He's got a decent force. Lots of Athelian Rangers. He's really invested in fire arrows in my opinion. Oh, he has. He just hasn't equipped them. Well then, he should probably equip them when he has the money, of course. His economy has been ravaged multiple times though, so understandable that he's not equipping every unit immediately with fire arrows. As he does have to make troops. If you have to choose between building another battalion or upgrading you guys to fire arrows, you should probably choose battalion. In most scenarios, I would expect. Looks like we have actual Rohirrim on the field, I think. Yes, indeed. Out the Black Riders. Black Riders level 2, of course, so they'll start regenerating once out of combat. Looks like there's there with Malthasarn as well. I think these are... No, those are MayShadow's Black Riders. They're not immune to stun, though, at level 2, as you see there. I don't think they can move. There's the Cloud Break. There we go, Asba's got his fire arrows equipped. Luke does not have fire arrows equipped. Oof. Looks like Luke is poised to overwhelm the enemy here, although Black Riders from MayShadow do a huge amount of damage to the archer line. And there is the arrow volley catching fire to the ground. Some things are happening over here. Let's go over here for a minute. Eagle's still alive, although not for long, it looks like. Ooh, the range on this Roger, Jesus. Brutal. These Noldors are trying to stay alive. And succeeding for the most part. Noldors is surprisingly good. I mean, it's not surprising, but these are Orc Warriors. And these are Noldor, which cost significantly more money than Orc Warriors. Of course they're going to live. It looks like Stats is really going in on the Noldor. Getting lots of battalions where he can. But MayShadow is pushing in. He's got catapult support, which is definitely helping him out. Killing off buildings, killing off Ents, hitting archers. Stats might be in trouble here, especially with these Black Riders as well. And Luke is continuing to hold off Asba, but Asba is pushing in deeper and deeper, it seems. If Asba keeps up the pressure, then he might be able to break in and do a lot of damage to Luke eventually. Stats is unable to go help him at the moment. So potentially Asba will be victorious on that side eventually, but of course not before Stats is killed off with MayShadow, I think. I think it's only a matter of time before Stats is overwhelmed here, especially MayShadow has the right units. And this troll should be over here, fluffing his Rodrums. Catapults, I think, are just huge with the Black Riders and the archers. He's got the right composition to deal with this. Mordor, Schmoldor, you know what I mean? It's curious how Black Riders do against Noldors. Surprisingly, Noldors are doing alright. Although Noldors take a lot of arrow damage, it seems. Buffed Roger Marcher's fire arrows. Eat them alive. Stats has lost both barracks. I think that's going to be GG for Stats. Yep, there it is. His fort is gone. He's exited the game. Well, he's still in the game actually, but he's dead. he's GG'd. And it looks like Luke has as well. There you go. Asba and MayShadow are victorious. That was a really good match. I thought that was really enjoyable. Both teams played the hell out of that game. Lots of units, lots of powers, lots of good plays. It was pretty nice. But yeah, both teams I thought could have went either way for most of the game, but Southern team managed to pull out the victory. So very nice, well played, GG. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that cast of the Rise of the Witch King, and I'll see you guys next time.